Okay, we are recording. Um, yeah, let's get started. Thanks everyone for joining. My name's Kana. I am with Red Blind Media. We're a small marketing agency, and we work with a couple different music schools, including Sam and the team at Opus One. And he asked us to put this together to just share some of the insights that we've found in performing marketing services for music schools. Hopefully, share with all of his Opus One customers some high level tips and tricks, generally what works for digital marketing and how we can kind of measure and perform some attribution. um, we're we're hoping that you find all of this helpful. We're going to do a Q&A at the end, so throughout the presentation, if you have a question, feel free to drop it in the chat, and when we get to the end, we'll circle back around and go through some of those questions. Yeah, like I said, my name's Kana. I'm with Redline Media. I also have my partners Kirby and David here on the call. Um, let's dive into this. Get my screen shared. Okay, so we're going to be talking about a few different things today, but we wanted to start super high level. Most of you are probably familiar with something called the marketing funnel. This is kind of covered in Marketing 101 classes, if you remember back to those days. When we talk about marketing tactics, a lot of what we're going to be talking about in the following slides has to deal with where your audience is in the marketing funnel. The first stage of the funnel, we kind of call these top, middle, and bottom sort of interchangeably. So if you hear us refer to bottom funnel tactics, top funnel tactics, this is kind of what we're talking about here. But that first step in the funnel, awareness, there are people in your audience who are maybe not even aware. It's not even on their radar that they are looking for music classes. And most of your audience is going to be parents looking for classes for their kids. I'm sure that there are some adults taking classes as well, but they might not be actively searching for music classes. And so when we talk about awareness tactics, we're trying to get them to think about, oh yeah, hey, maybe a class for my kid would be a good thing to do. I should think about signing them up for a piano class or whatever it might be. The second stage of the funnel, the middle stage, consideration. This is when someone is actively considering signing up for a music class. They're doing a little bit of research. They're looking at options in the area. They might be looking at some of your competitors. And so you want your messaging in the consideration stage to really be about what sets you apart. What are your distinct competitive advantages? Why would someone want to take a class with you versus one of their competitors? And then conversion or action, they're ready to take that step and sign up. And sometimes all they need is just a little push, like, hey, do it today. We've got a special offer running. We talked about that this is kind of the time of the year, or it will be in a few weeks, where people start thinking about those New Year's resolutions. And, oh yeah, this would be a good idea to sign up. I want to start, I'm going to do it this year. I'm going to learn piano this year. I'm going to start in January. And so when we talk about messaging at the bottom end of the funnel, people are already aware of you. They're already thinking about taking classes. We just need to get them that final push to take action with you. So let's dive in a little bit to what works and what we've seen work in our experience marketing to music schools. Before we start getting into some of the tactics, it's important to think about your channel strategy. As most of you, I'm assuming, are music school owners. As you're preparing, your financials, you probably have a budget in mind for how much I want to spend on marketing or how much to spend on paid media. And there are a lot of options out there. There's a lot of different ways you can spend your money. We typically view a lot of those options in kind of two buckets, either traditional media or digital media. And traditional media includes, you can kind of see here, those things like TV, outdoor, radio, direct mail. And some of these can be very effective. We're not saying don't spend on traditional media, but what we have found in 2022 and 2023 very soon is that digital media is just from an ROI standpoint a better investment in most cases than traditional media. And you certainly are going to want to test this, and it's probably a little bit different depending on your market and your audience. But digital media has a number of distinct advantages over traditional media. When you're talking about the audience that you can target, if you put a billboard up or do a radio ad, that's going to get broadcast out there, and 90% of the people who see your message are not your audience. They're not in the market. They're not going to sign up for a music class, and so that's wasted spend. With digital media, you can get much more targeted and get your ads in front of people who are in your audience and who do have a high chance to convert and become a student or sign their kid up for lessons. On the creative side, generally with traditional media, you are stuck with a fixed piece of creative. If you're putting up an ad in the newspaper or sending out a direct mailer, and sure, with programmatic TV now, there is some opportunities to start personalizing that message, but digital makes it a lot easier to craft individual messaging for different audience segments so that they receive ads that are a lot more targeted to them and which make a lot more sense to them. For example, like a retargeting ad, if you know someone's been on your site looking at violin lessons, you can serve them up with creative and ads that show violin lessons instead of just music schools or piano lessons or something that doesn't really matter to them. And then when we talk about those funnel stages too, traditional media is generally good for awareness tactics. It's really top of funnel, kind of growing your brand, making sure that people know that you exist, but digital is really effective at hitting those kind of middle and bottom funnel segments. And then finally, attribution. When we talk about attribution, we're talking about measuring the effectiveness of your campaigns. And generally with traditional media, you get a little bit of reporting on the reach and maybe a little bit of like demographic information about maybe who your ad was shown to. But with digital, the great thing with digital is we can track each one of those clicks. We can see exactly what they do when they click an ad and they hit your website. We can follow them along their whole journey until they actually fill out that lead form or complete a self-booking and become a customer. And we'll talk about the advantages of having a good attribution model in place and all the different benefits that can get you. But digital, just in general, much better at attribution and tracking and recording all the performance for all of your campaigns. So when we think about those digital platforms, you saw on the last slide there was Yelp and Nextdoor, and there's a lot of different options for digital. What we find work really effectively is this duopoly of Google and Meta. Meta being Facebook, and it includes both Facebook and Instagram. I'm going to kick this over to Kirby here, our director of media. He's going to talk a little bit about the differences between these two platforms and some of the campaigns and tactics that we find effective on each of these.
Thanks, Kana. Hey, everyone. Thank you for being here, and then especially here early in the morning on the West Coast. We appreciate that, as well as the people that are viewing the recording. And so kind of like Kana mentioned, and when he talked through the marketing funnel and the different channels, here's how we see those two platforms, Google and Meta, performing the best through those different stages in the funnel. When you come to awareness and that top of funnel audience, Meta utilizes both Facebook and Instagram, which really has the ability to get in front of those potential customers. Assuming some of you or most of you are serving your primary demographic being parents, trying to get in front of those people that it's been on the back burner. They may have thought about it, but not to the point of consideration. It's kind of just like their kid maybe joined the school's music class or things like that, and really trying to get in front of those potential customers that are really early on in the process and just starting to think about potentially a music school. And so Meta, we see at that top of funnel and awareness stage, and we utilize both, but we really kind of see, you can see with those color kind of more bold, Meta being a preferred platform when it comes to that kind of top of funnel brand awareness campaigns to really try to get in front of those potential new customers. At the consideration stage, that middle funnel, this is really where we see Google stand out in regards to the quality of traffic. These are people searching for music schools in their area, really trying to kind of pinpoint which one that they think is best, because usually in most cases there's going to be multiple schools in the same city. So really trying to kind of narrow that down, and typically people are using Google platforms to really try to find that school. And then at the bottom funnel, we really kind of see kind of an even split here when it comes to Meta and Google. We're going to get into campaign structure on the next slide, but really at this bottom stage and bottom part of the funnel at the action and conversion point, it's really just about staying top of mind in front of that quality of traffic, and getting that user and that qualified customer to take action and convert into booking a lesson, or giving you guys a call or filling out a form. And so that's kind of how we see both of those platforms working at different stages in the funnel. As far as campaign strategy goes, both platforms, they really have unique campaigns and audience types that we're able to utilize at different stages in the funnel. And this really kind of helps us kind of work that customer journey through making that final action and final conversion. At the top of the funnel, on the Google side, we use a campaign type called Performance Max. This is actually a newer campaign type. For those of you that are in your Google Ads console, you may have seen it, but really got rolled out about a year ago, and it's been really Google's really been pushing it in the last couple months to really kind of take over that top of funnel space. Performance Max really lets you utilize the entire Google network. So this includes YouTube, Gmail, display ads across their network, and of course search. And so it really lets us kind of use all of that, give Google kind of the power to really try to find potential new users and new customers at that top of funnel stage across their platforms. And we'll get into creative on the next slide and what we kind of see working in that regard. On the Meta side for top of funnel, we utilize broad and interest-based audiences. Meta really has a lot of data when it comes to your actual user, regardless of you running ads or not. Assuming that most of you guys have an Instagram and Facebook profile and page, those posts that you're doing, the content that you're putting out, the videos, the photos, those all kind of build your audience. And we really kind of tap into Meta's database in that regard to really kind of hone in on where those potential new customers are using broad and interest-based audiences. At the mid-funnel stage, we kind of mentioned on the last slide that Google kind of owns this definitely with the search interest, but you're using a combination of non-brand. So that's when we say non-brand, that's people searching for like music lessons, piano lessons near me, violin lessons, things like that are really kind of targeted search queries that are more of the music school, music lesson broad category. And of course, we utilize Performance Max. That's one thing I didn't mention at the top. Performance Max, you can see, is used throughout the entire funnel. That's just because of the vastness of the Google network. We're able to do search, we're able to do display, video, Gmail, like I said, and so we utilize that at all stages throughout the funnel. Down to the bottom funnel, we do have brand search in here. That's a campaign type that really just makes sure your school will end up at the top of those search results. Typically, when a customer searches for one of your guys' schools, that they will find it at some point when they do that kind of Google search. But we have noticed that in a lot of your guys' cities that there's different competitors, and they are bidding on your schools as well. So we have seen a positive ROI when it comes to building out search campaign, brand search campaigns, and specifically that, just to make sure that you're showing up and getting that conversion action. And then finally, on the Meta side, we really have the ability to target potential customers that have engaged with your ads and your website. And that's using the Meta Pixel, which gets placed on your guys' websites. That lets us retarget users that have engaged, but yet to have actually completed that final action. And kind of just like I said at the top, staying really top of mind and getting in front of the right user to hopefully get that conversion action in the end.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on one thing on brand search. Most people who search for your music school by name, for example, I'm going to call you out in the audience, Desert Ridge Music Academy. If someone types that into Google, most of the time they're going to find your website through the organic search results. You might be asking yourself, why would I pay money to run ads on brand search? And like Kirby alluded to, sometimes it's competitors who are bidding on your brand names and causing their ads to show up ahead of your organic listing. When we talk about measuring the effectiveness of brand search, we have to take into account that incrementality. And what we've seen, and it varies by industry and it varies by location and how aggressive your competitors are being, but about 50 to 80% of the people who are searching for your brand term will find your site organically. So that additional 20 to 50%, that's the incrementality. So when you're measuring the effectiveness of a brand campaign, take the performance numbers with a grain of salt, knowing that 2/3 of that traffic would have probably found you organically, but it's that additional 1/3 that you get out of brand. We still find that in general, the ROI makes sense for brand search. We recommend it with most of our clients.
Sweet, thanks, Kenya. Now on to creative. So I kind of mentioned when talking about Performance Max, Google, we have a variety of placements as well as Meta, because I can't mention that for those of you unfamiliar, that is Facebook and Instagram. And within those, there's multiple placements like Facebook stories, Instagram stories, Reels, etc. So lots of different placements for different types of creative. And that can be text-based, like in the Google search ad, or it can be in a visual setting like we have here, showing a couple different examples. That one on the left, that is a Performance Max display ad. And so you can really see kind of that's going to get displayed across Google's network, which we have the logo there. We have definitely, I guess you probably can't read it fully, but that's a headline that people might grab their attention. And what we've noticed is that customers have gotten really good, like incredibly good at noticing like an ad versus organic content, especially now talking about Meta. And so what we try to do and what we think stands out the best through our testing has really shown that those organic looking photos of your actual school, of actual students when possible, of your facilities and your equipment, that is the type of creative that we see really moving the needle. And those stock kind of photos that while there's plenty out there and they're pretty good, they look like polished and they have nice, you can put your text overlay like your logo and things like that. Those really actually end up underperforming, especially on Meta when it comes to creative. The one on the right is a parent testimonial. We've talked about the different parts of the journey and that kind of marketing funnel, top, mid, and bottom, and getting that awareness. But when people are really trying to consider your school, we have found that these parent testimonials have really helped kind of swaying potential parent customers, definitely at the bottom stage of that journey. So that is definitely something to keep in mind if you have the capabilities. And if you get anything out of this, it's definitely much more organic. That middle photo right there of a student taking the lesson, that's what people might stop and look at, or awards that people have maybe gotten at a recital or things like that. That is the creative that we see really kind of moving the needle across our campaigns.
Yeah, if you have text overlays on your ads calling out your business name or your offer, get rid of it. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. The primary objective of all these campaigns is to really send quality traffic to your site and have them convert. That's really the main goal, and that's the objective of all of our campaigns that we put out there, is converting into an actual student, which makes the landing page and website like really integral in that and very important in that process. So I'd like to introduce David Zamini. He's our Director of UX and Conversion Rate Optimization, to kind of talk through that process and best practices for landing pages and your websites.
Thanks, Kirby. So yeah, when we talk about landing pages, a landing page could really be any page on your site. And sometimes that's even the home page. In fact, a lot of times that's kind of the default that people will use, is they'll just send traffic to the homepage of their site. And that can work in some cases, but it doesn't allow you to get very customized or specific to the campaigns, or as flexible for optimizing that page towards those campaigns. So we typically recommend building out a dedicated landing page or a series of dedicated landing pages to match the campaigns that you're running and the different types of ads that you're showing. And when it comes to what that page looks like, there's not really any one single template that is just the perfect landing page template. It's going to vary depending on the campaigns that you're running, your audience, the products and services that you have to offer, etc. But there are some very key things that make up a good landing page, regardless of that final template. And we want to highlight a few of those here, using a page that we built for Opus One as an example. So first and foremost, having simple but clear headlines right at the top of the page is key. People tend to skim through content on the internet. They're not going to stop and read everything in detail unless it catches their attention, and they'll dive in. So having a headline that is really concise and compelling will let people catch their attention and kind of pull people in. And on a similar vein, having good, rich media, images, videos, etc. Like Kirby was just saying, having things that are authentic and real really help and really stand out to people. People can identify when they see a stock photo. You know, like Kirby said, it might be a really nice looking, sharp, professional looking photo, but if it's stock photo, a lot of people recognize that, and it kind of loses a little bit of trust on that page. Whereas if you're showing just real photos, students taking lessons, photos of the studio or the location, that lets people kind of understand and see what they'd be getting into if they were to sign up for lessons. And it really helps them skim through that page and identify what they want to focus on. Next on the list would be using very high contrast call to actions, so buttons and links, that kind of thing. A lot of the time we get asked, what's the best color for a button? And the answer is there really isn't one. It's more important that that button stands out, both from the background of the page that it's on, as well as the rest of the content around it. So in this example, we're using a red for our primary call to action. And even in this small screenshot, you can really see where those red areas are. You might not be able to read the button at this size, but it really draws your attention and pulls you into that area. And with those calls to action, we want to make sure we're repeating them as well. We're not just listing them once at the top of the page and then calling it good, but we're actually using them throughout the page. It may be a little bit hard to see in this screenshot, but we've got a button at the top. We've got links for different types of music lessons. We've got links for booking at the different locations. On mobile, we've got that little action bar at the bottom that has the text us and the book trial buttons, and those actually float with you. So as you scroll down the page, those buttons are always visible. And just having those repeated and using some different wording on them can really help make it so that whatever point on your page kind of catches someone's attention and makes them decide to take the next step, there's a button there, there's a link there for them to take that action. And then the last thing to point out would be reviews, testimonials, even things like certifications and badges. That's all under a category that we call social proof, which is just essentially other people promoting your product or your services, your lessons. In this case, parents, and giving testimonials or reviews, or even students that might be a little bit older. Having that content on your page can really help build trust with people who don't necessarily know your school yet. And so repeating those wherever you can on a page can really help drive up that conversion rate. And here we're showing just one page, but in reality, it's really good to have multiple landing pages. So if you have different types of music lessons that you're offering, guitar, piano, violin, etc., you can create similar but different landing pages for each of those, so that when you serve someone an ad for piano lessons, they're not going to just a general page that has all the information. They're going to a page that's dedicated to piano lessons and speaks to that more specifically. And when you have that kind of higher connection between the ad and the page that you're sending people to, you're generally going to have better conversion rates. And then with all of this,
no, sorry, go ahead.
with all of this, I think that leads into the Opus One booking engine as well, because we want to make it easy for people to reach out if they have questions. They can email or call or text. But if people are ready to book, we want to make sure that that's there and ready for them and available for them. And the Opus One booking engine, we like working with that because it makes it super easy for users to just dive right in and complete a booking in just a few minutes, really. That's a better user experience for the customer who's ready to go. They don't have to send an email and wait to hear back or anything like that. And as probably many of you are aware, it's a lot less overhead for yourself. You're not picking up the phone or responding to emails just to get someone booked. It's just quick and seamless on both sides. I'll let you jump in there now, Kana.
No, I was just going to say on the last page, if you're going to take away anything from optimizing your landing pages, really focus on the headline. It's the first thing people see, and for 80% of the traffic landing on the page, it's the only thing they're going to read. So you want a really clear and concise headline. If someone only reads that headline, they show a pretty good idea of what your page is about. Yeah, on the Opus One booking engine, like David said, it's great because it facilitates that it lets people kind of complete their journey. And I don't know about you, like I'm a millennial. I hate talking on the phone. I'm sure a lot of millennial parents now who are booking this kind of stuff would love to just do this online rather than having to go back and forth with someone. So with the Opus One booking engine, we've actually worked with Sam and the Opus One team over the past 6 months at improving the tracking and being able to record a lot more data out of the booking engine and pass that back to either Google Analytics or the ad consoles. So this is a good kind of segue into the attribution and measurement portion. Before we kind of dive into the specifics and kind of show you a little bit of a demo of what we're talking about, I want to talk just really high level about some of the benefits of being able to track and record all of this data. If you have good data collection, you're able to easily identify the channels that are driving the leads, right? It gets back to that question that we touched on earlier in the deck. Where do I spend my marketing dollars? If you have good tracking, you're going to really easily be able to tell which channels are driving performance. You can also calculate your CPA. That stands for cost per acquisition. So if you're able to track every time someone completes a self-booking, on one end how many ad dollars you're spending, and on the other end how many people ultimately complete that self-booking and become a customer. You can calculate pretty easily what the cost is to acquire new customers and then fold that into your overall media strategy. Through some platforms like Facebook and Google Analytics, you also get some really good and interesting insights into your audience. And this is helpful because it can show you some relationships that might not be like really clearly or like readily apparent right out the gates. So for example, you can have maybe Facebook is telling you, hey, like a large portion of your audience that's booking these are female, and so maybe we change some of our messaging to really target more moms. Hey, moms, come on in and book something for your kid. You wouldn't know that unless you had some data that the ad consoles and Google Analytics would show you on this kind of stuff. And then all that kind of boils into being able to make data-driven marketing decisions. We touched on traditional media versus digital media. Traditional media, in a lot of ways, it's kind of a shot in the dark. You run it, you kind of hope that there's results, but there's no way to really kind of measure it. With digital media and good attribution and tracking, you can make those data-driven decisions and ultimately be more effective for your business. The way that we have set up this flow with Opus One, and I'll show you here in just a second what we're talking about. As people progress through the Opus One booking engine, we're recording data at every step of the way, and we use a platform called Google Tag Manager to capture all of that data. Google Tag Manager is a really great platform. It's free. It's a tag that you deploy on your site, and what it can do is you can set up a combination of tags and triggers within Google Tag Manager. triggers or actions that people will take on your site or in the booking engine, and you can connect those actions to fire certain tags at certain steps in the journey. So I'm sure all of you have a website for your music school, and you've probably gone through setting up Google Analytics. Some of you might be using Google Tag Manager already right now. The advantage of running everything through Tag Manager, though, is we can fire specific tags at specific times whenever those actions are recorded. And we can fire those tags for Google Analytics. We can pass the conversion data to our ad consoles and any other platforms that have tags that you would want to deploy and attach to this kind of stuff. So I'm going to show you how this works in real time, and kind of how we kind of use Google Tag Manager to sort of see what people are doing as they progress through the self-booking. Let me pull this right up here. Okay, so this is Google Tag Manager, and they have a feature that enables us to debug all of our tracking on Opus One IO. And you can kind of see in this tab here, I have the Tag Assistant connected. It's telling me it's connected to the debugger. So we're going to just walk through the experience of kind of booking a lesson on Opus here. So say, for example, I want to book a 60-minute piano lesson. I click on that. Yes, it tells me some information. This is what I'm looking for. All right, the next step here is to pick some staff. So we're going to pick Julia right here. And then Julia's calendar is going to appear, and we can see all the different times. It looks like she offers some online classes, or I can take a class at the Mountain View location. So I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to hit book, and then it's going to take me to sign up for my account and complete the purchase. Now, what we see here in Tag Manager is as I progressed through that experience, it's recording a series of events. So at the very start, we've got some page view tags here, and when the page first loads, we can kind of see we fired a series of tags here. Our standard page view tags, some of our pixel tags for Facebook and the ad consoles. But then as we progressed and started to interact with the data, some information started to appear hidden in something that we call the data layer on the web page that Google Tag Manager is able to capture, and we start recording this information. So for example, when we first clicked on that book a piano lesson, it took us to the service details page, and we recorded an event that it displayed the staff list. At this point, we're starting to pass the name of the lesson that we just selected as a custom variable. We called this one booking engine service name. You can see it's piano lesson, 60 minutes. There's also a series of tags that get applied there. And then as we selected that staff, Julia, it fired a staff selection event. And now you can kind of see the name of the staff member, Julia, is being passed along with all of this other data back into Google Tag Manager. And when we see like this staff selection event, for example, we're firing a Google Analytics event that's recording, hey, someone hit this step of the process. They selected a staff member, and they selected Julia, and it was attached to this piano lesson. Same thing when they choose that time slot. We saw that this was, okay, they booked a lesson at this campus location. And so being able to capture all of this data and then fire Google Analytics tags or an ad conversion tag ends up being really helpful. And you can use this data to get some more advanced insights. So one thing you can look at is kind of the funnel through the booking engine. Is there a certain period where people are running up and they're saying, we're not progressing to the next step for whatever reason? Maybe you're not offering enough options for that time slot selection. So that could be a signal that, hey, maybe we need to hire another teacher and offer some more available times for people to choose. Or you can use some of this data to sort of say, hey, people at this location are especially interested in piano lessons. Maybe more of our marketing materials for this location should be around piano, right? So there's a ton of different ways that you can use that data to get some insights into your your music school. And you can get all of this, we can pass all this data into Google Analytics. We use some dashboard software to kind of visualize this. So we can kind of see, hey, everything that we just did there, all of that's getting captured in Google Analytics. We can see that funnel step. Here's everyone who selects a staff member, and then they move on to selecting a time slot. And then ultimately they purchase a paid lesson, or they register a new account and then purchase a paid lesson. We can see all the different staff that got booked. We can see the services that got booked. And it's not shown here, but if we dive into Google Analytics, we can see at the campaign level which ad campaigns are driving piano lessons or violin lessons, which ad campaigns are driving lessons to each of these locations. So there's just an amazing wealth of data that we're able to get and capture here and unlock a lot of really valuable insights that you wouldn't really necessarily be able to get out of the box with something that just fires a conversion tag when they complete a purchase. So as I mentioned, we've been working with Opus One and their music school in the Bay Area for about 6 months. We started back in May, and you can kind of see here, this is a rolling 12-month view of their business. Certainly when we started working with them, they increased their ad spend, and we started to see a really large increase in the volume of conversions, paid booked lessons, right when we started working with them. But we also were able to drive that cost per acquisition down really significantly, like right out the gate, just because when we came and joined, like their ad campaigns were not optimized at all. It was a lot of low-hanging fruit, really easy to clean up. And now that we've kind of rebuilt those, we're in sort of a testing phase where we're continuing to try to find new opportunities through all of that data that we just showed you. And just so you can kind of see some of the numbers here, the cost per acquisition, $130 over the rolling 12 months. It's closer to $100 the last few months since we've been working with Opus. About 70% of those ultimately become a long-term customer. And Sam has estimated that the average lifetime value of one of those customers is over $8,000. So you pay $100, $200 for a lead that turns into an $8,000 customer. That is easy math. We think that we're able to help Sam get a pretty stellar ROI with Opus. That's all we got. That's hopefully you've been able to kind of see some effective tactics at how to structure your digital marketing spend, where to spend, how to set up those campaigns, and then the advantage of recording all of that data. Like I said, we helped Sam develop a lot more hooks in the Opus platform. It should all be available for you if you send over your Google Tag Manager snippet. Sam can add that to your Opus One account, so you can start capturing that data. The actual implementation and getting Google Tag Manager set up to record all of that takes a little bit more manual work, and we're happy to chat with any of you more about that and getting that kind of stuff set up. We'll have our contact info here at the end, but I want to start talking through some of the questions that we've got. So I'm going to jump up to the top of the list here. Feel free, if you've got questions, just to dump them in the chat. You can also unmute yourself too as we're talking through this if you want to ask any clarification on this stuff. So first question that we've got here from Jim, how is targeting the top funnel change with the iPhone changes and limited what we know about the target? I'll let Kirby chime in on this one too, but yeah, Apple rolled out an update. What was it, about close to a year ago now?
Year and a half, almost 2 years now. Yeah.
Dang, man, time flies.
Yep.
That really locked down a lot of the tracking that Facebook was able to ultimately record about you. So Facebook now knows a lot less about the different sites that you click on around the internet and the different actions that people take on your website. What we have found is that in the past, the strategy for Facebook was setting up a lot of really specific audience targeting and saying, hey, I'm going to serve this creative to this specific person because we know a lot of stuff about them. We know where they shop and their demographic profiles and their location. The best practice now in this post iOS 14 world is setting up really broad targeting on Facebook and really utilizing a lot more creative testing to drive results. Kirby, anything to expand on that one?
Yep. It's quite a bit, to be honest with you, Jim. If you want to chat offline about this as well, feel free to shoot us an email. One thing is that your question focused on top of funnel. That's actually one of the stages where that change hasn't really affected, other than if you were to use like custom like audiences of potential users. That's top of funnel is probably the least changed in that regard. Because a lot of the actions that we're looking at and that Facebook's looking at are happening on platform. So the iOS change hasn't really changed anything that's happening on platform. So that's somebody like they're tracking them down to the millisecond on how long you spend looking at a certain ad, what you click on, how you engage with it, what you share, what you send to your friends in Messenger, things like that. All of that's happening on platform and still being tracked. And so that's why Kana mentioned creative. Facebook and their AI and what they have going on in the back end is able to basically see like that one creative that we showed of the kid playing the violin. They're able to scan that image and know exactly pretty much what you're trying to offer in that regard. And so creative is really what's going to set you apart and really trying to find your target audience. Again, as we get to the mid and bottom funnel, not being able to fully track some users as they click on your ads and things like that makes it a little difficult. We are able, like Kana showed, track all the conversions taking place. And ideally they have a UTM parameter, which we didn't really get into. That's getting in the weeds a little bit, where we can then see that they came from a certain campaign type and campaign name. That's really helpful for us when it comes to reporting and tracking. But as far as sending that data back to Facebook, that's where it gets a little bit tricky. So top of funnel, in the last year and a half and the ad spend and the campaigns we've created, I'm not incredibly concerned about top of funnel, that mid to bottom funnel, and a couple of those custom audiences you mentioned. I'm going to zoom ahead here, Kane, just a little bit. He brought up lookalike audiences and different information. Anything that you can provide Meta, like you had in there, I believe data sheets, like, yeah, if you have like past customers and things like that, always worth testing. We have some campaigns that we're running where lookalikes are actually doing really well. We have other campaigns where lookalikes didn't really pass the sniff test, and we pulled back on lookalikes and are focusing more on a broad interest-based audience. So that's the standard marketing. It depends, and that's just because we got to test and we got to look at the data depending on your school, your location, and how we can best utilize different audience types on Meta.
Jim, you also asked about the landing pages. Yes, those landing pages that we showed there, we developed and designed those in-house for SAM, and we actually host those as well. We work with clients with a variety of tech stacks. So sometimes it's working with their web team and just giving them more recommendations on the landing pages. Other times we kind of own that experience. It kind of differs from client to client. Chris asked a question. Some customers hate creating a password and account setup. Absolutely. Maybe the simplest call to action is just collecting a name and phone number to text. Yeah. So our other music school client, we actually, what we do is we drive all of the ad traffic and push them to fill out like a pretty simple lead form. And then once they complete that form, we say, hey, we'll get back to you and we'll follow up with you on this. But then we also show them the button right there that leads them into Opus. And we say, or if you're ready to book this right now yourself, go ahead and you know, you're off to the races. Go ahead and pick a time and book this yourself. So sometimes it's offering both of the options and kind of saying, whatever you prefer, go ahead and do it. So yeah, absolutely. Good comment there, but there's ways to kind of get them both. Another question from Jim. We use Zapier to bring top of funnel into communication campaigns we've created to follow the prospect on their cell and email. Does your service take over more of that funneling work to the target down through the funnel to a decision? I'm not sure if I understand this question fully, Jim. So you're using Zapier to, what do you mean follow the prospect on their cell and email?
So we use Zapier to funnel into SalesPipe, which in SalesPipe, we've created all kinds of different rows and funnels where we can track where they came from, whether it's a school ad, whether it's this, that, or the other thing. And then we've created campaigns in SalesPipe to follow them on their cell and email. And I'm just wondering how your service deals with that. Like, it sounds like your landing page and what you're doing helps move them through the funnel more, or how would it marry with some of the things we're doing to kind of massage them into a decision?
Yeah. So, okay, you're talking about like an owned media funnel. Once you have their contact information, here's the different outreach that we're doing to kind of push them along. Those kind of run in parallel. I mean, when we talked about our funnel, we're taking an approach at here's how we think about the funnel from an advertising standpoint. But certainly along the way, if you're able to get their email or their phone number, then you can put them into your own media pipeline and hit them via email or text. In terms of actually how you would connect that, like you can absolutely capture the data through Google Tag Manager and then pass that along to Zapier and then do whatever you want with it. So I don't think that it's a one or the other type situation. You can definitely use both. Another question you had, Jim, audience insight. Kirby kind of touched on this with the lookalikes. Yeah. Heather asked, where do you access the Google Tag Manager data? So Google Tag Manager just acts as a middleman. They're a broker. They capture the data from Opus, and then in Google Tag Manager, you set it up to push that data to Google Analytics, Google ads, Facebook ads, or any other ad platform that you're using. You can have Google Tag Manager push data to Zapier, and then that opens up a whole slew of possibilities on where that data goes. So it's up to you. Google Tag Manager makes it really easy to choose where your data ends up. Did that kind of answer that question, Heather?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Medina School of Music asked about webhook or API integration. Yes. So the dashboard that we showed is a proprietary platform. It's called Agency Analytics, and they have built-in integrations for all the common ad platforms, including Google Analytics, Google Ads, Facebook Ads. It's a service that we provide for our clients. But like I just mentioned, if you're capturing the data in Google Tag Manager, you're able to send that data wherever you like. Generally, we build most of our stuff off of Google Analytics. So we capture an Opus through Tag Manager into Google Analytics and then visualize that with like we showed you our dashboard platform, but you can use Google Data Studio or Supermetrics. There's a bunch of other data platforms that you're able to utilize there. We do a lot of split testing at really all levels of the funnel. So when we talk about A/B testing, we generally have campaigns running on the ad platform side where we're testing our creative, we're testing our audiences, we're testing our targeting, and then on the landing page side, we're testing those experiences as well. So it could be something where we're testing the call to action, what language we're using on the button, we're testing layout changes with the pages, we can test the headlines, we can test the images. Yeah, once you kind of have the initial kind of best practices taken care of with your landing pages, absolutely start testing and optimizing that kind of stuff. Another question here on lifetime value of the customer. I don't know if Opus has a way to calculate that, because while they're able to record all the transactions that happen through Opus, I don't know if that necessarily matches up one-to-one with everything that hits your books. So that would be a follow-up question for the Opus team. We'll show their contact information here at the end, but yeah, like Jim said, it's all about the retention rate. You know, you need it, and Opus can show some of that. I'm sure once you have a customer with an account, you can see how often they're booking or scheduling bookings for. But yeah, that lifetime value is kind of based on the average price of a lesson and how long they stick around and keep booking lessons with you. Any other questions? Don't be shy. We still have 10 minutes. Well, if anyone does have any further questions, you've got our contact information here. Feel free to reach out to us via email or our website. Actually, most of you should have my email. I sent you a reminder this morning to join the webinar. So feel free to lob me any questions that you might have. And like I mentioned, we've been doing marketing for music schools now for about 1.5 years. We're really I'm fortunate that we've been able to share some of our insights with you. Thank you all for joining. We're happy to continue the discussion. If you need help marketing your music school, please reach out to us. I'm happy to have that discussion. Chris, no referral or coupon code. We have your information, so we know if you reach out to us where you came from. Yeah, thank you again, everyone. We really appreciate the attention. It was great chatting with all of you. Good luck through the holiday season, and good luck in January with all the New Year's resolutions. We hope that you all are super successful. Got any other questions, please reach out via email. But thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very helpful. Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.